Hello, welcome to today's lesson on 3D drawing for your model railway. In today's lesson we're going to create the last of the three wagons we were working at, which is the version with just the two cradles rather than the three cradles. So to do that we're going to be using this as the base model. If we look at the original version of the wagon, although this isn't a great picture, there is another one further along. The wagon itself uses the same open-ended frame here, so that we can just use that model we've got. It's got the open-ended frame here, so we can just use this as the base model, which actually means that this one we've created up here, this body 28, is no longer needed. So I'm just going to remove that, get rid of that body. Next I'm going to do is I'm going to create a copy of body 36. So just to move copy, create copy down the bottom here. I'm just going to drag this over to the front here so we can work on it at the front. Okay. Then once that's copied over, I'm going to just minimize these two or turn them off with the little icon so that I can just work on this last one. So what we need to do then is basically remove a lot of this top surface detail that we've already created, so that we've got a base model we can work from, but also still retaining some parts we need. So if we look at the photo of this wagon here, you can see we're still going to need this upper cradle here. There's two of them. It's the same size as the center one on the free version. You're still going to need these little mounting points here, whatever these are. So all we're going to do is we're going to do split body, selecting the body that we're going to split, which is obviously now body 37. The splitting tool, I'm going to use the top surface. If you were going to do something that was at a different position, you could use an offset plane. But because I'm just using the top surface, I can just select any of the flat surfaces here, click on OK, and you'll see what it will do is it will split this body and create all these separate bodies here. Body 37 will still stay the original, or should have stayed, that's it. It will still stay as the original base body. We then just have to go through and remove all the parts which aren't needed. So you see 38 is needed, that's still on there. Don't need the handrails, so do remove, don't do delete, so that it's not referenced anymore. So if we remove that one, that's going to be needed, so is the plate there. The cradle is still going to be needed, but I'm just going to turn it off so that we don't accidentally delete it. Body 43 is still needed. I'm going to keep body 44, which is one of those two little mounting points here. 45 is the top of a buffer. I'm going to get rid of this one because we're only going to need one set of these. So I'm going to remove 46, 47, we don't need that small cradle. Don't need the handrails, because the handrails are going to be different sizes. Buffer, handrail. See, as I hover over them, they highlight on the model. You just got to make sure you're deleting all or removing all the correct ones. Okay, let's just have a quick look which cradle kept that one. So we are going to get rid of 57. Okay, that one I'm going to hide and remove that one. I'm going to hide that cradle, remove that one. Now, it doesn't seem to be any particular order as to how it renumbers them. You know, there probably is a specific order that it does it, but it doesn't seem to be any pattern as to which one becomes which body. Okay, so now we've hidden all the bits that we're going to keep. So we've hidden these cradles and the two little supporting I-beams there. Everything else that's left is bits that we're going to keep, and obviously we've removed all the bits we don't want. So we're going to make these back into one main body. So we're going to use the combine body tool. And we're going to select body 37 as our main body, and then just holding control, select all the bits that are left over that we're keeping. So we've got 10 bodies that we're joining into this main one. Click on OK. That should all go back to the one body, leaving us the 4 parts left over here, which we'll be working on in a second. The next thing we're going to do is actually fill in these holes. Now the easiest way to do that is just to select the inside profile here, do extrude, rotate to the top so you're looking top down. I'm going to do two-sided extrusion, and then going to make sure it does a join. I'm just going to drag that across so that it fills the hole in, and then select the other one and drag that across to fill the hole in, and click on OK, and then we've got a flat surface we can now work to. So now we've got to this point, the next thing we're going to do is put the holes back in for the two cradles. So if we look at the photograph here, so you can see the first hole starts just after what would be the second upright here. This plate wasn't here, and then it runs past the next two cradles and goes to the sort of roughly halfway point between the next two. So I'm going to jump back into Fusion. I'm going to create a sketch on the top surface of the wagon, and I'm just going to create a rectangle in that sort of area there. Okay. So the dimension that we had for the initial width was 13.5 millimeters. So I'm just going to put that dimension back in before we start. And the next thing we had was a distance between the edge and the side here was 1.7 millimeters on both sides. So we're now going to have that as the correct size and shape for the rectangle. So as we said, the initial hole starts just after the second upright. So we're going to just move this across. I'm just going to define from the corner here to the corner of this hole here. You can see we've got 6.2. I'm going to say let's move it over 10 millimeters to start with. You can see how that's not quite moved it across enough. That needs to be sort of this area here. So we just change that to like 12. Getting there, that could do being a little further. I'm actually going to move that maybe to 12.5. That looks like it's roughly halfway there. It's just after the starting point there, so I'm going to go with that. So it's 12.5 millimeters from the corner of the box to this corner here, and 13.5 millimeters across. I'm going to extrude that through, cutting all the way to the other side there. So we've now got our first of the two holes. The simplest way to get the second one is just use the mirror tool. We're going to mirror the features. I'm going to select that hole that we've just drawn. The mirror plane, we've got plane 1 here, which is the midpoint of the wagon. We click on that, then get the hole on both sides. Okay, so now we've got that, the next thing I want to do is get the cradle back in place. So if we select those two bodies, so we've got 42 and 61 of my two bodies. So I'm just going to highlight those two bodies, holding Control down while I select them. I'm going to right click and then move copy, and then you can move them. I'm going to try and get them roughly halfway point here. We'll go something like that, and we can use the inspect tool to measure it. So if we select the corner there to there, 4.53 there. Okay. And then if we do another inspect, go again from the corner to there, 4.41. So it needs to move to the right by 0.11. So close that. We go to edit that move, and then we can select to move it. We actually want to move 0.11. Okay, and obviously you can play around with that to try and get it in the correct position depending on how far you move it. So if we just check that. That's 4.42, and if we inspect that corner to that corner, 4.52. So actually it's not right. It needs to come back to the left by 0.05. Edit that. Minus. Again, inspect it to make sure we're getting the correct position. So 4.47 there. Inspect that again. That corner to that corner. 4.47. So there you go. I've got that in the middle there. So obviously we've got the 2 here. We need another 2 here. So if we select those 2, shift. Let's try again. So selecting those 2 bodies, and then we can do the mirror tool. See how it's selected the bodies. We just use the mirror plane, plane 1 being the midpoint, which then automatically puts the extra 2 in the correct position, and then we can combine those to the original body and click on OK. So we've now got those 4. The next thing we need is these two parts here. Now if we look at the photograph, you can see how the post here is in the midpoint between the two cradles. So again, we just come into Fusion, we're going to select the two bodies and then move copy and then drag that across to the midpoint. So me moving it 11 millimeters, I think that's putting that pretty much where that midpoint is. I'm going to click on OK there. I'm happy with the position of that. And then we're just going to combine those three body parts in together. Okay, and now we've got the three basic bodies. Okay, realistically, the last thing we need to do on this to get it to a point where it's similar sort of position to these is add in the handrails now. Okay, so if we start with the center handrail here, we can see we've got 4 legs and a cross member, and then you can see they're starting pretty much in the corner, just slightly offset from where the holes are for the floor. So we're going to work in this area here. Same as what we did on the last one, we need to create a offset plane when we do the handrails. And if we just have a look, how far from the side do we have them? Is that plane 3 the one we're using? I'm just trying to find which plane we were using. So that plane 7. Okay. So if we just have a look at that, edit the feature, find out what we offset that from, we can create that on the rest. So actually that looks like it's in line with the middle of the hole here. Okay, which is absolutely fine because that makes it nice and easy. So we need an offset plane from the same position on this wagon here, the bottom of the working. So if we do offset plane, select that inside face, click on OK. Now we can work on that plane to draw the handrails. Okay, so we've got the initial point there. So the holes here, so we're going to need to, if we project using the P button, I'm going to project those 2 points so I know where they are. And you can see those 2 points are there now. Okay. Then I'm going to draw a line. And I'm going to go reasonably close to where that starts. So be there. And I want actually that to be snapped to the floor, don't I? So if we project the floor as well, then if we do the line again, that should snap to the floor, yeah. And we can come up 6 millimeters. That'll put us at the correct height there. Do the same on the side here. 6 millimeters. And we need to define the distance from the hole to the initial line. Let's go for 0.6 millimeters, I think. And we'll do the same on the other side. So there to there, 0.6. Okay, and then we have a line that goes across from top to there. So that fills in that hole. Okay, we've got 2 uprights. Let's see if we can find a picture that's a little bit more side on, so we can work out roughly where they are. Okay, none of those. Go back the other way. Let's see if the other one's any better. We're looking sort of the halfway point between these 2 stanchions, so roughly there and there. So if we draw a line up there and then a line up there. It could be that these are actually going to be equal sizes. So if we just have a look, see what the length of that line is, that's 17.7. If we do define the distance from the line to that line we've just drawn, 17.17 divided by 3, that should put it the same, so it's 5.72. So if we then define the distance between those 2 as 5.72, that should then mean if we measure between that one and that one. Close enough, 5.73. You're not going to argue over 0.1, I don't think. Okay, so I'm going to be happy with those. We need to round off these corners. So again, we're going to fillet that corner there. I think we did 1 millimeter. And if we do the same on that corner, 1 millimeter. Okay, and then we can pipe all of these. Now, if you remember, when we do these, we've got to pipe them individually. So if we come down to the sketch, make sure it stays on. So it's going to be sketch 46, and then using the pipe tool, select the outside one to start with. See, obviously that's gone way too big as diameter, 0.6, what we said. Yep, so 0.6, that'll then fill that in. We'll turn off the sketch, so just turn that back on, and then we can do pipe on 2 here. We're going to tell it to join. And pipe again on that one. Okay, so we've now got that handrail across there. Okay, let's turn the sketch back off. So what we can then do is that's a feature that we can then copy across to the other side here. So we need to have a mid-plane between the two. So if we construct mid-plane from the two sides of the wagon, click on OK, and then we can do a mirror. If we select those 3 pipes we've just drawn, the mirror plane being that mid-plane we've just drawn, click on OK. We've now got that on both sides of the wagon. Okay, so the next thing we're going to want is to draw the handrails on the end here. Now I've just had a thought, we've removed the handrails because they were the wrong length. So what I'm thinking actually is I'm going to try and bring them back and recover them from down here, and then try and see if we can cut them here, split them apart, and then just extrude the parts that we need. So if I just run through these removes, see if I can bring them back. So let's see how that works. Okay, so we have bought the one. It was luckily it's the last one that's actually recovered. Okay, we've got these. Let's combine these first. Actually, so we combine the original body with those 2 side handrails. Okay, so what I'm going to try and do is put a split, because this bit here on the end here is actually fine, and the upright and the curve is fine. I'm going to try and split the part here. So I'm going to create a offset plane on the inside profile, which is the same direction I want to split. I'm just going to put it slightly after that curve there. See that? I'm going to turn off the main body, click on OK, and then I'm going to do a split in body 63 using that plane. So we then got 3 bodies. We've got the main part on the end and the 2 side parts here. So what we can then do is this end bit's actually in the right place, so we can leave that alone. But these 2 parts there, so 68 and 69, these 2 uprights, if we right click on them and move copy, we're going to position these. You see how they're right on the corner of the cutout here? So if we just drag these, say maybe 6.5, you see that's put those there. Click on OK, turn that, offset that plane there. Then what we can do is just extrude that face. That's why that created a sketch. I'm going to do that. Extrude that face. Sorry, dodgy fat fingers and mouse moving correctly. Extrude that face, and then if we rotate that round, we can extrude it to that surface there. Tell it to join. That will join those 2 together. Again, do the same thing here. Select the surface there, extrude to that place there. Click on OK. So now we've got the 2 bodies. We did that end handrail and the original body. Obviously, we need to get this down to the other end here. So same as before, do mirror, and we can select the body, which is 69. and then we're going to mirror plane be in the mid plane here. Okay, so now we've got both ends and combine, so we can do body 37 with those two handrails. Okay, so now we've got, if we turn these back on, we've got three versions of the wagon in their base form, with the original three cradle with the covered floors and long handrails, the three cradle with the short handrails and exposed framing, and then the two cradles with the exposed framing as well. So now we've got to this point here, I'm going to leave this lesson here and then we'll come back on the next one and do a little bit more work on these wagons. So I hope you've enjoyed watching that episode. Thanks for watching.